So I don't like to get pretty serious, but I want to talk about Jacob Blake and my opinion on him. So as you guys know, he was shot 7 times. The entire thing was absolutely terrible. And there's multiple accounts of what is going on in terms of the story. No one has a full, detailed account of what happened. We're probably not going to get that until September. There's no body cam footage that's going to come out because they don't have those on. But there's the police that say that he was the aggressor and that they were called because there was a wanted alert for someone at the address and he was refusing to leave and give the keys back, and that he was the one that got super aggressive and put a police officer in a headlock, and that's why they tasered him. But then according to witnesses, Blake pulled his car up near six or seven women shouting at each other, and Blake did not say anything to the women. Other witnesses say Blake was trying to intervene and break up the argument. And I guess the police union was called because he was attempting to steal whoever was calling the police, who was a woman's keys and vehicle. But then there's another report that says that he drove up to the location, told his son to get into the car, and then he went into the house. So there's a lot of conflicting reports about what happened, because initially everyone was like, oh, he's trying to break up a fight, and then the police said, oh, they were called there because he was in a house he wasn't supposed to be in. So it doesn't make sense because I think both happened. I just don't know how exactly. There's key parts of it that we're still missing. The bystander who recorded the video and multiple people that were watching it from the neighborhood who had unobstructed views said that the police had dropped the knife, but they didn't see any weapons and he wasn't being violent at all. The police union said that Blake was armed with a knife, but the officers did not initially see it, and he fought with the officers, including putting one of them in a headlock. And because he was getting so aggressive, they had to go to lethal means. And then Blake's attorney said this was overblown and that the police officers were the aggressors and had him in a headlock upon arriving at the scene. And if you do look at, and there's not a lot of video, but in the second video, he was in a headlock by the police officers. I think, and then they found that there was a knife in the driver's side front floorboard of the car, but Blake's lawyers disputed the implications that the knife was in his possession. So there was a knife that they found, but I think why they got so aggressive and why they pulled the guns is because one of the officers said, he has a knife, and the other officers thought he has a knife in his hand, and so they were like, drop the knife. When the officer that shouted that saw the knife in the car, not in his hand, and then when he opened the door, they thought, oh, he's going to get a weapon, and that's when they shot him 7 times. So obviously this has spread massive protests, and rightfully so. So my opinion, so first of all, I don't believe the police union you believe the attorneys and believe what the bystanders were saying, because time after time, police unions are like, if a movie studio makes a bad film, and out the gate, they're not gonna say, yeah, the director messed up or we messed up, like Justice League. They're gonna do the cold corporate kind of statement, and they always defend the police officers. And if a lot of the time they weren't, then I would believe them more. But I mean, a lot of what they're saying doesn't add up to what actually happened and what people saw. So that's why I'm not going to believe I'm not going to just believe Jacob Blake's attorneys. I'm not going to just believe the police union. I'm not just going to believe the Wisconsin Department of Justice. I'm going to believe a lot of different sources and come to my own conclusion. But the point is that he was not being violent, and the fact that the office, we don't know why it got that aggressive. That's still the part we don't get. Why the officers, what conversation happened between Jacob Blake and the officers that caused this huge scuffle? We don't know. And ultimately, I feel like the officers just did lazy police work. Taser, the thing is that officer in the video had his hand on his shirt before he could even get into the door. So why he didn't just throw him, I have no clue. And they could have just looked to see that if there were any weapons, they could have tasered him again. Shooting a man 7 times in the back is bad police work. If that's a black man, a white man, doesn't matter. You don't shoot someone 7 times in the back. That was a situation that did not need to get violent. And there's going to be, I know people are going to be saying, oh, but he was being aggressive. We don't know the full story. We don't know the full story. So I can't say this even, but at the same time I can, because that's not good policing. Shooting someone 7 times, you know what? Maybe a little pass through, like 1 or 2 shots, maybe in the back or in the knee, like, but 7 times, like, he was already down after the 3rd one. Like, it was just not at all how police should do their jobs. That's why we need police de-escalation. There's a great video on Vice News. I'm going to link it in the description down below, and watch it. And it proves that police de-escalation and not going to lethal means allows the situation to be solved in a much better way. And I don't want to defund the police. I'm not one of those people that wants to defund the police. I don't say ACAB. I don't say any of that stuff. I think that the system of policing is completely messed up. It's corrupt, and we need to fix the police system. We need to fix mentalities. We need to get police through bias training, through all of that stuff, because without that training and without that change of mentality, nothing will change. And we need the police. I want to not be afraid of the police, but I am. And I think most brown and black men and boys are afraid of the police because of past events. So now that I laid out the story for you, you know, I'm seeing a lot of people on TikTok post false videos of him when it was of a completely different person, giving fake accounts, fake stories. And listen, do not spread misinformation about this event. It's a very sensitive event, and the average Joe will see a false video or a false claim that's proven completely false, and they will believe that, and that will be their argument, and you cannot change their perspective because they don't want to listen to other people for some reason. And I hate it. I hate it when a black man gets shot. Conservatives, Republicans, Trump supporters, they instantly go, what crimes have they committed? And they try to paint these people as criminals, as why are you protesting for this criminal? And it's like, listen, I don't care what Jacob Blake did before this incident. His criminal record had nothing to do with this one isolated incident. Neither did George Floyd. Doesn't matter what they did in the past. All that matters is that one incident. And the fact that you want to try and bring up past events to justify these deaths shows that you honestly want to make the police officers in the right. You don't care about them and bringing them to justice. You just care about trying to make them out as monsters. And when that little kid got shot, you guys didn't care about him because you just wanted to use him as a prop, as, oh, this kid was so innocent, but George Floyd, you know, put a gun to a pregnant woman's belly. And that, guess what? That was a false statement that was disproven by multiple news sites. Multiple news sites. Not just one, not just two, but like 10. Anyways, the Canaan kid, what happened to him was terrible. But you know why people aren't protesting? You know why the news doesn't focus on that? Because his killer got justice. That killer is in jail. Imagine if that Canaan kid got shot and that killer was still on the loose. Yes, then we would be protesting. Why aren't you bringing him in? That's why we protested when George Floyd got shot, or when the officers of Jacob Blake aren't in jail. The people that were responsible for George Floyd's death are still out in the open, and they're not immediately in jail. You know what? Here's the thing. If the officers that shot Jacob Blake, instead of going on an administrative leave, if those officers were in jail and got justice, people wouldn't be protesting. People wouldn't be protesting as hard as they would. And I know that. You know what I mean? You know what? How about this? A crazy idea. Let's actually give the people that were shot the justice they deserve, and the officers put in jail, never to be police officers again. There would still be protests, but everyone would be a lot calmer because they knew that justice was served. Justice was served. If those officers got put in jail and they were not just on an administrative leave, man, everything would be so much better. No one would be as angry as they were. Anyways, and the knife, the whole knife thing, we don't know Jacob. I mean, multiple people multiple eyewitnesses said he was not being violent. He was not being violent. And I believe them, not the officers, not the union. Because their whole job is to defend the police officers, is to make them in the right, not in the wrong. That is the flawed thing, is it's bias. And I saw an interesting thing from one of the lawyers saying black men don't get the fair trial they deserve, and the officers will do whatever it takes to cover it up and make them seem right. This was not a good policing, and this was wrong. It was so wrong. And then we find out he was cuffed to his bed, which that disgusted me. And people should be protesting. And I think the fact that Donald Trump has not, is not going to see the families, did not call them, it just tells how much of a absolute piece of human garbage this man is. And I laid out the facts of Jacob Blake's death and the events surrounding it, and people are going to have, it's not a black and white situation in terms of we don't know exactly what happened, but at the same time, this was not a situation that was handled well at all. And the interesting comparison is the 17-year-old kid who had a firearm illegally killing 2 people in a protest, and the police officers were happy that these boys who were part of their own militia were helping them, giving them bottles of water. And this kid had a clear BLM agenda. He was not there to just, his cause was to defend businesses and make sure things didn't get out of control. He had a clear bias against them. He had an agenda, and he was there to cause trouble, and that's it. There was this one conservative hype house TikTok thing that defended him, saying how he was chased by a guy that was trying to pepper spray him. My question is, so you don't get pepper sprayed and chased for no reason. He clearly did something to start this. And you come with this gun that you have illegally, and then you shoot the man. That's not your job. You don't have the training, you don't have the mentality, you don't have anything that qualifies you to be a second-in-command police officer. And of course, when you shoot somebody in a protest that's already super high stress and everyone's on high alert, and you shoot someone, of course they're going to come for you. And the guy says, it's self-defense, it's self-defense. That kid wouldn't have to use self-defense. The whole thing is that this whole situation was because this kid brought a gun to a protest. He only made things worse. None of this would have, this is all the kid's fault. He wouldn't have had to use self-defense if he didn't shoot that first guy in the first place. Maybe you shouldn't have bought a gun. It's like that whole defense for this kid goes completely out the window. And you know why? They were trying to get the gun away from him. One of the guys was trying to hit him with his shoe, and that's when he shot him. And of course, if you shoot somebody, people are gonna attack you. It's like, and then the police officers see him shoot 2 people and let him walk away. If that was a black man who had the same intention, who had the same mentality, that was doing the same thing, those police officers would have they would have just shot him there and then. They wouldn't have even brought him in. They would have shot him dead in the center of everything. But because and again, white privilege, that is a clear example of white privilege. A white man can shoot 2 people and walk away unscathed without the police officers noticing. But a black man who allegedly had a knife, and when he actually didn't, and he wasn't trying to be violent and aggressive, gets shot 7 times. The whole police system is just so corrupt, and it's just the injustice that's going on today sickens me. It does. Black men are stereotyped as dangerous, as they have weapons, as they have guns, as they trying to do drugs, and that's because police officers are afraid of black men. Our skin color is our biggest weapon. This skin color equates to a gun, and that's just bad. But that's the mentality. They're not just police officers, but people in general are raised upon or brought upon. We see black men who are mentally ill, who are on drugs, and we get, from a young age, we get this mentality and a way of looking at black people and brown people as dangerous, and we're afraid of them. And that's wrong, and that mentality needs to change. And they're already on high alert. And the moment that the guy says that, their stereotypes and biases against this man are confirmed, and they're just going for it. And that's why we need better police training. We need to educate people on implicit bias, on stereotyping, on why do we fear them. You know what I mean? It's just, if that was a white man, he would not have gotten shot. And I know I can't prove that, but it's true. It's true. There's a great scene in The Hate U Give that I'm going to actually leave a clip for it, like, in the video, where one of the main characters says, if that was a white man in a car, would you have shot him? And the police officer basically said no. And that's the thing, is white people, police officers aren't afraid of white people, and they don't have those same stereotypes. And then the whole debate of, you can be bad to white people. And it's like, yes, we can call white people a cracker, white trash. We can call them mayonnaise or something. But the thing is that where it differentiates is that black people and brown people don't act upon those stereotypes. So we might say, you look like a school shooter, but we're not. But if I'm a police officer and I say, that 16-year-old looks like a school shooter, we'll laugh about it. And if it's a black person, we act upon those instincts, those stereotypes. When it comes to a white person, we have stereotypes and we have biases against white people, but no one acts upon them. When white people have stereotypes and biases and thoughts about black and brown people, especially if you're a police officer, you will act upon those instincts. And that's the difference. White privilege is not about you. When we're talking about white privilege, it's not that you have a lot of money, that you haven't suffered. So many white people suffer and work super hard and don't have any money, and sometimes they struggle, and we get that. White privilege is you not having to worry that the color of your skin will affect you negatively in society. Mainly in police, when it comes to police, if you're a white person, you don't have to worry about getting shot for going over the speed limit, or having a broken tail light, or having an expired license, or an event like Jacob Blake or George Floyd. You don't have to worry about getting shot, or, you know what I mean? Like, at work, or at school, teachers might, if a black boy gets into a fight, they will monitor him closely than a white boy, or they might give him a harsher punishment because, again, of the bias that, this black kid, he might be dangerous, and this white kid, he made a mistake, he's troubled, and that's what we talk about when we talk about white privilege. Not getting a good mortgage, or not shown the better houses, or the rent is significantly higher for black people, or look, you know what I mean? Like, there's very specific things that are white privilege. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to worry about people stereotyping you and your life being in danger. You know what I mean? It's not about that you're more wealthier, although there are a lot of white people that are in a better, like, there's a lot more white people in higher positions of power, like CEOs that make a ton of money than there are black people. So at the end of the day, white privilege is not about money, and it's not about how you struggled. It's about the privilege that you have because of your skin color. And that relates to the police force, to business, to jobs, to, colleges, yeah, I mean, I don't know how to better else explain it. If you're a white person, you're more likely to, and this is not talking, I'm not talking about poor white people, I'm talking about just like middle class or people that are, have money. You're more likely to live in a nicer neighborhood and get access to better services and better education and better colleges, and get a better education and get the skills to get a good job that pays well and allows you to live in a very nice neighborhood, and the cycle continues, whereas a black person will live in a poor neighborhood and the services will be lesser, and the fundraising for the poor place won't be as high as to a place that has a very wealthy family, because they know that the poor people won't be able to give as much money, the teachers won't be as good, the education won't be as well, have to go days without seeing their parents because their parents are working two jobs for like almost the entire day, just making ends meet and living in some little small apartment. There was drugs and crime around the neighborhood, and they get attracted to that because they don't have the good influences, they don't have the services and the good enough people to lead them in the good direction. And Black people can't afford to go to the best colleges, so they don't get the best education, so they don't have the access to the best jobs. Black people can work just as hard and still not get it, but that's because of the financial and housing disadvantages that they are at. You know what I mean? They might not have the skills to be a CEO. They might have the skills to be a part-time nurse. You know what I mean? There was tons of successful Black people, but at the end of the day, Black people are always at a disadvantage because of their skin color and because they can't even control it. It's just like it's a cycle. It's a cycle. And yeah, so white privilege is something that you should believe in, and know that using your white privilege, you can stand and talk back to a police officer and not get worried about getting shot. And you have better access to stuff. And even if you're a poor white person, you can, you work very hard and then you make it. And you're like, I grew up, we barely put food on the table. I had to work 6 5-hour jobs, but I made it. Whereas a Black person might do the exact same steps, but still not make it because they are at a disadvantage because of their skin color and because of the stuff I just mentioned. So that's my rambling. You agree with me, This video is like 20 minutes long, so we'll see what happens. What's happening with Jacob Blake is terrible. The fact that this shooter is not getting immediately he's in jail, but it just shows that the white privilege that he has. And I just hope that Biden gets elected. Not because I love Biden, but because we cannot have Donald Trump. He is going to be a dictator. He is slowly but surely becoming a dictator. And that's a whole other video. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed. Like, subscribe, and comment. And BLM, Justice for George Floyd, Jacob Blake. And, oh, God. I wish it was, like, 2015 or 2014. We were so ignorant to everything, but we were happy, Peace.